5 years is a really long time. It's a whole year more than it takes to complete an undergraduate course in engineering, and for some reason, it's the same amount of time that it's taken Honda to bring its 300cc platform to India. But you know what? We're not going to stand here and complain about what could have been. So instead, let's investigate what makes the new CB300R and whether it's a case of too little, too late. The good news is that this is a completely new motorcycle for India, and it brings with it not only a new engine and chassis, but a fresh design language as well. The first thing that took me by surprise is just how compact the CB300 is, and it just isn't as big as it looks in images. I suppose it's these smaller dimensions that explains how Honda has managed a sub 150 kg curb weight. The good news is that the proportions haven't suffered, and it still comes across as a muscular design that's very easy on the eyes. The round full LED headlamp is obviously retro themed, but the fuel tank is long and muscular, and those radiator shrouds with their brushed aluminium look add a real sense of class. A new 41mm USD fork does wonders in terms of giving the bike a powerful stance, and you can't miss those unique cylindrical LED indicators. Also, something you don't usually see on small machines like this is a naked aluminium housing for the radiator, which looks fantastic from afar but is a little roughly finished when examined closely. The rear section is clean and uncluttered with a split seat design, a neatly executed LED brake clamp, and cleverly designed pillion grab handles. The lower section seems a bit cluttered though, with a large but decently executed exhaust on the right and an enormous sari guard on the left that must be introduced to a dustbin the moment you buy the bike. Facing the rider is a clean looking LCD display, which is well laid out and easy to read, but it is missing a gear position indicator. The switchgear feels high quality, but the indicator button is usually where you'd find the horn button, and this proved to be continuously confusing and annoying. I'm a big fan of the CB's design, and I don't think too many of you will disagree. What I also like is just how light and compact this bike is without being cramped for someone tall like me. More good news is that the seat height is nice and low and friendly. But I'm probably not the best person to be talking about this, so what I'm going to do is call our cinematographer Shreyans out here to help me demonstrate. Alright, now as you can see, Shreyans does have his toes on the ground, but he's just 5 feet 4 inches tall, and he's confident that he can handle a CB just fine. So if he can, I'm sure most of you can too. Continuing to carry this friendly and approachable character is the new motor. Well, it's actually about 5 years old, but it is new for us, and it's certainly a noticeable upgrade over the CBR 250R. The engine definitely feels similar to the old 250 with that familiar gruff sound and feel, but there's no doubt that it's more responsive and potent everywhere in the rev range. The key thing to note, however, is that while it's faster, it never feels fearsome or intimidating. For starters, despite what the name suggests, this engine actually displaces 286cc, and just like the CBR 250, it uses a 4-valve head, liquid cooling, and a 6-speed gearbox. The bore remains identical, and that extra capacity has been gained by an increase in the stroke. The result is an engine that now makes 3.9 more horsepower and 4.5 Newton meters of additional torque. Performance is surprisingly brisk, and the lightweight CB was quicker than we expected in our V-Box tests. In fact, the bike managed to sneak just under the 7-second mark in our 0 to 100 test, which is very close to the more powerful BMW G310R. Of course, this is a Honda, and just as you'd expect, power delivery is linear and friendly. The bike can hold a cruising speed of 100 with ease, while 130 km/h arrives without too much stress either. With some determination, you should be able to clock a top speed of well above 150 kph on the clocks, possibly even 160. That's definitely quick, but while it can hit high speeds, it certainly doesn't pack the energy of something like a KTM 390 Duke or even the new Bajaj Dominar 400. The upside of lightweight shines once more, this time in the form of impressive fuel efficiency. The CB300R replaces the CB300F in international markets, and it brings with it a brand new tubular diamond frame. Now the big advantage with this frame is weight savings, and this bike is 11 kilos lighter than the BMW G310R and a whole 16 kilos less than the KTM 390 Duke. Now lightweight is a wonderful thing for a motorcycle, and it translates to this being a cheerful, fun and easy motorcycle to ride. You feel the benefits of this especially in urban conditions where a tight turning radius also works wonders. In fact, I'd say that the CB is probably the nicest city bike of all the machines in the 300 to 400cc space, thanks to its peppy bottom end, light clutch and easy dynamics. The 300 uses the same braking hardware as the CBR 250 in terms of disc sizes, but it now gets a radially mounted Nissin caliper at the front, which not only looks better but should offer stronger performance as well. However, that hasn't proved to be the case entirely, because even though the lighter CB300R may stop in a shorter distance, the 250 had a sharper feel and stronger initial bite. Happily, the 300 makes up for it with a segment-first feature that uses an inertial measurement unit to assist the ABS. Now, this probably isn't as advanced as the IMUs you'll find on superbikes, but it still lends lean angle information to the system, which will only help it to perform more cleverly. Ride comfort is very good, with a confident and absorptive feel from the suspension, whether it's on Mumbai's bumpy roads or out on the highway. In fact, it almost feels like the rear shock is set a little too soft, and this becomes apparent when you take the CB to a fast and winding road. By now, it's clear to see that the CB300R is not a bike of extremes, and this applies to its handling characteristic. It's light on its feet and it's eager to please, with good feel from the front end. But when you start to get aggressive, you can tell that the rear suspension is too squishy and that the rather average Michelin Pilot Street tires struggle to grip when pushed hard through a set of bumpy corners. This may well be improved by raising the preload on the rear shock, but the bike packs a very skimpy toolkit and a C-spanner wasn't included, so we can't tell you for certain. In that sense, it's just like the old CBR 250, and you get the feeling that with firmer suspension and better tires, there's a lot more potential to unlock from the chassis. At this point, it's worth addressing the value quotient. The CB300R comes into India as a CKD, which places challenges on how affordable the bike can be. With that in mind, the price tag is quite reasonable, especially when you consider the absurd asking price for its direct rival, the BMW G310R. While the CB has high levels of finish and some premium kit, there's also areas where it comes up short. For starters, the black and white LCD display feels quite basic, and the lack of a gear position indicator is mildly irritating. You won't find a slipper clutch here, and the levers aren't adjustable either. It's also disappointing to see that there is no engine cutoff or even a warning light for the side stand. And finally, the 10-litre fuel tank capacity is tiny if you plan to do any serious touring. Ultimately, the KTM 390 Duke might be slightly more expensive, but it offers a huge step up in performance and is also a much better value proposition in terms of features and price. But the CB will appeal to a much wider audience simply because it offers such a different and more relaxed experience to the single-focused KTM. The CB300 is very much a Honda at heart. It's handsome, well-built, and is a very competent package while stopping short of being overly dramatic or exciting. This is a fun motorcycle to ride, and it's easy to live with, and it also comes with Honda's legendary reputation for quality and reliability. So even though it's been a long time coming, this bike does find a place in our market. If you're on the lookout for a motorcycle of this size and nature, but you're put off by the KTM's over-exuberance and aggression, the sensible CB is probably what you're after.